In today's video, we're going to be diving into the upcoming pattern, looking at both the European model and the GFS model today, where we have multiple potential snowfall events, multiple severe weather events, and multiple Arctic outbreaks. We need to go over it today, so let's just dive into things. And this is going to be an earlier release, thankfully, so by this afternoon, I can tell you we are going to be in quieter conditions. Let me widen this pen out. It's a little thin right now. There we go. So we have warmer air really surging northward throughout the central and eastern states here. Overall, drier conditions also prevailing. Quite windy as this air is really rapidly trying to fill in this gap that's been left by this low pressure system and trough really just moving out. A cold front came through and left very, very windy conditions behind. And really, we can't expect too much different on Tuesday. Really, what we're going to see is a deepening trough out west, some storminess as far as rainfall in the lower elevations, snowfall in the higher elevations is going to be what's prevailing. By Wednesday on March 13th, what we see here is that there is some snowfall and rainfall now for the Rockies and the rest of the Four Corner states, as we have a 995 millibar low pressure center developing throughout the southern and central plains there. We are going to see some precipitation develop to the east of it, especially as we head into that night into Thursday as well. By the afternoon of Thursday on the 14th in particular, we have thunderstorm activity in this southern quadrant of this low pressure system. Texas, Oklahoma, Kansas, Missouri, Illinois, Arkansas, and Louisiana, as well as some of Mississippi and Tennessee here, showing some signs of thunderstorm development by Thursday that could come in the form of severe weather as well. By the time we're reaching Friday, what we've seen is this southern area has flattened out a bit. Now we have Texas, Louisiana, Arkansas, Mississippi, Tennessee, Alabama, Georgia, South Carolina, into North Carolina there, experiencing these thunderstorms and other heavier showers. Up to the north here, definitely heavier showers prevailing throughout the Ohio Valley and the Mid-Atlantic and portions of the Northeast. Still warmer though. It's by Saturday that we have signs of that first Arctic experience really that we're going to go through here in the central and eastern states. It's just starting to move in, but we have colder air on the way after the 16th date. Still thunderstorms to the south here throughout Texas and further eastward through the Gulf states and deeper southeast in general. By the time we reach Sunday, what we see is that we have this trough really deepening, especially in the central states, and then really rising throughout this Ohio Valley and into the northeast area here. So the jet stream is a little bit more climbing there. I would say we have this storm system. Really, this is that stationary front that we've been calling for a couple of days. It's looking to set up. And what we expect is that there's going to be a pinch between the cold air and the warm air. So we expect this cold air to be pretty equal to this warm air. And what this causes is the pressurized storms really just move along that front instead of progressing eastward or northward here. They're really just moving along that line, as we mentioned a couple of days ago. Same story by Monday. We have this kind of southeast area dealing with these storms moving along this line, as I mentioned. But this cold air is advancing slowly but surely, especially in the central states where we have deep Arctic air working its way in even to Kansas, Oklahoma, Texas, Arkansas, and Missouri. So pretty far south there in the Midwest and the plains. By the time we reach Tuesday, though, this trough will be centered over the East Coast. So we have something like this, and it's going to be very, very deep cold, and you can see it stretching far south as Alabama, Georgia, South Carolina, North Carolina, and Tennessee there. Pretty shocking to say the least. We don't have that snowstorm connecting anymore. All of that moisture is offshore. What we've seen develop here is that this cold is a little bit too intense, a little bit too far stretching, and that precipitation is pushed offshore. But I will say, I mean, we are close still. We see this is overnight Monday into Tuesday, and we have a low 997 there offshore of the Mid-Atlantic and Northeast. If we see this trend back west, we're on basically on for a snowstorm here for the Mid-Atlantic and Northeast. So we're still watching, and we're going to see the GFS model actually show that get together there. By Wednesday afternoon here on the 20th, what we have is still some cooler air, but it does look like that warmer air is making a push to retake the area, and that's likely what we're going to see happen over time. Let's take a look at our GFS model here, and I want to take us towards that 20th time frame. And this is when we see this model that didn't have the snowstorm yesterday. Actually, it has more of the snowstorm now, as that trough is again centered over the kind of central states. We have a lot of moisture moving northward here to the east of that trough. And what we see develop over time is that we actually do get a snowstorm. In this case, it's a little far south here. We see Kentucky, Tennessee, North Carolina, Virginia, West Virginia getting the heart of this one. I think it's more likely for this thing to really move up the coast and cause more of a snowstorm in the mid-Atlantic and northeast. This seems a little deep south for this time of year. Certainly not impossible, but I wouldn't call this the most likely outcome by any means. And what we see happen is, even on this model, the cold is a little too progressive, and this low is too far offshore by the time we're taking a look at it being as far north as the mid-Atlantic or the northeast. It's going to be too far offshore, and we really don't get anything here. We will continue to track this over the coming days, of course, but it has moved in a direction of less impact for now. We do get a bit of a clipper system here, no real organized low, but we do have moderate to heavy snowfall for New York and the rest of New England there. As we continue on, we do get multiple cold fronts, including this one here on the 25th. It'll be the morning of Monday. We have a cold front kind of extending down for the entirety of the East Coast here. And by the time we're reaching Tuesday, we do actually get a pretty major snowstorm here, especially on the morning of Tuesday, where we have some moderate to heavy snowfall. It's pretty transient, and what I mean by that is this whole line is kind of progressively moving. So it would be short-lived, but that is some moderate to heavy snowfall in there. And also, it's highly dependent on if you're west or east of that low. Areas west of the low seeing snowfall, areas around the low or to the east of it are seeing all rainfall, and that's pretty common. But the trend here is interesting because we continue to get these cold shots throughout the pattern, as opposed to the European model where we see it kind of coming to an end. Total precipitation on that European model, we see plenty for the Northwest here, also throughout kind of the Midwest and Northern Plains, also the deeper south up the East Coast. So we have a lot of storms moving through still is the expectation, and even storms moving onshore to the west. So you can kind of pick up the flow. It's something like this, or we see them dipping down and moving like this is generally what we're looking at here in the upcoming pattern. Total snowfall, no surprise, we see a regression from yesterday's model run, significant regression from the European model here. Is if it doesn't show the snowstorm, it's going to show a lot less snow. If it shows the snowstorm, we're going to see a lot more snow in this area. That is pretty obviously what it depends on. Out west, plenty of mountainous snowfall, which we expect to continue to see for weeks to come. The GFS model, same story, a ton out west, although we do see a lot more here in the northern Great Lakes and upper Midwest. Same story for the Mid-Atlantic into the Northeast. We get a lot more here on the GFS model as we get multiple low pressure systems near the coast, and even some that are onshore a little bit here, bringing that snowfall to these areas of the Southeast, Mid-Atlantic, and the Northeast there. So very, very interesting model run here. Overall, I expect that we're going to go back and forth with this potential snowfall event near the 20th. There's still 9 days to go, so you can expect big changes from model run to model run. Obviously, it's possible that we never really see it trend west enough to show snowfall again. Regardless, we're going to go over it, and we're going to continue to track it as it is a possibility still, so we're going to treat it as such. So expect us to be talking about that over the coming days. As I alluded to yesterday, we're going to talk about the hurricane season very, very soon. For those of you that didn't catch the end of yesterday's video, I do expect to be uploading a lot about the hurricane season coming up soon, because we have historically warm temperatures in the Atlantic Ocean, and that is going to help to aid in the development of tropical systems. And on top of that, we don't have an El Nino. We actually expect to go into a La Nina, which is known historically to be considerably more favorable for hurricane development when we're in La Nina phases as opposed to El Nino. So a lot of interesting things to track, and all signs point towards extremely active tropics, and overall the hurricane season looks to be a bad one. So we're going to be tracking that very, very soon. Be sure to subscribe, as we do upload every single day, and we have a lot of exciting content coming up over the coming weeks, as I mentioned. You can even hit the bell icon for daily notifications when we upload, so you never miss one. Be sure to like the video if you did enjoy it, leave a comment down below, and I'll see you guys in the next video.